How's it going, everyone? How y'all doing? Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's get the vibes going. Let's get the vibes going. Excited to chat here today. By the end of this, what I hope that you get out of it is maybe some advice I wished I had before kind of trying to hold on to the tail of the dragon with the past months of what we've been up to. And so I think for us, how many people here have heard of Bolt.new, by the way? Just kind of curious. Oh, wow, dang. I guess I'm still used to being like, has anyone heard of StackBlitz? And there'd be like 2 hands and that sort of thing. Okay, so cool. So everyone's used this thing. You're aware of it, you tried it out. Is anyone aware of how long we were around as a company before we launched Bolt.new? 7 years, yeah. So to kind of hit the graph of this thing, so if you rewind, the x-axis way back 7 years, the ARR starting at the bottom of this, that's in November. That's October of last year is when that thing starts. The ARR was 0.7 million. That's over 7 years what it had gotten up to, right? And at the time that we launched Bolt, we were a team of less than 20 people. And when we put it online, we had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. Like we thought we were getting ready to shut down the company, actually, at the end of last year. This was like the last, not like pivot of the company because it's the same core technology that was used to build this product that we've been building for 7 years. But we couldn't figure out a way to kind of create a commercial offering that made sense at a venture scale. We've been around for a long time. And so our expectations were like, if we can add $100,000 of ARR by the end of the year with this thing, that would be game changing, right? Obviously, kind of beyond our wildest expectations of what happened, and since then we've over doubled it. But I think that to me the really crazy thing about the graph you're looking at is how clean of a ramp that is, right? Like there's not this like jagged edges during the insanity of the early days, and the product we put online was really, it's like those race cars. Like it was an MVP. It's like those race cars where they strip everything out and it's just like metal. There's no back seat. There's no side seat. It's just like this. That's kind of what the product was like. So the fact that our team was able to scale this was just unbelievably impressive. And so I kind of want to talk about what that looked like and how to structure teams to be able to actually rally together and be able to scale what would normally take at least a year to grow into, right? The best analogy of what it feels like, if you ever seen the movie 300, during this time, right, like on this revenue ramp, kind of like probably at the tail end of that, we were looking at probably 30 or 40,000 active customers at that point, on month 2, a team of less than 20 people. So this is kind of apt. You got this small group of people, surrounded by just tens of thousands of things that are maybe not trying to kill you in our sense, but it felt like that. I mean, the support load was unbelievable. There was not a person on our team that had successor support in their title, right? It was my chief of staff and I largely responding to support tickets and whatnot. But the main thing, we were able to make this work because it was this just incredible camaraderie amongst the people on our team, and we'd been working together for 7 years at that point. And we were just extremely aligned and very lean and very fast, and those are not new things for us. Like that's how we have been operating all along, right? And one of the core philosophies that we set out, like my co-founder and I, he's actually a childhood friend of mine. He and I have been building websites together for like 20 years now, literally, since we were like 13 years old. And the company we did before StackBlitz, before this one, we had actually bootstrapped that thing from the ground up ourselves. Like we were broke, living on couches. And when you do that, you really learn how far a dollar can stretch. And it's very obvious how most startups are just incredibly inefficient when you're in the phase of trying to find product market fit, right? And so this is kind of where this mantra that we've had at our company for almost a decade now really kicked in, which is you really want a small number of people with more context per head. Because what that means is that people at the company have more agency. They can just go and build things. They don't have to get permission to build things, right? There's not this whole chain of command you have to go through, et cetera. Everyone's very empowered. Things just move a lot faster. You can just go and make immediate impact, which again is really important when you're dealing with this sort of like scale, right? Of course, for startups, the name of the game when you're finding product market fit is you need to be able to take as many shots on goal as you possibly can. Because like fundamentally, getting product market fit is just like an enterprise sales pipeline. Like if you're an enterprise sales rep and you want to close $1 million of pipeline, you don't go and talk to like 3 people and assume you're going to close $1 million of pipeline. You're talking to like 100, 200 people at your top of funnel. Of those, half of those, maybe take the next call. Of those, maybe 10 are remaining that are actually warm leads. Of those, you close 3 or something, right? Same thing with like, building products and building startups in the early phases. You need to stick around as long as you possibly can, which means you need a lower burn rate. You do not want to have more people at the company, right? Because humans are the most expensive thing for a company. Doesn't mean you shouldn't hire them, but it means that it's important for your ability to have a durable, enough time to actually take shots on goal. Case in point, one of our main competitors of our previous product, when we were in the IDE space, they got acqui-hired, basically stripped for parts 2 weeks before we launched Bolt, right? And we were on that same trajectory. But purely a matter of they didn't have enough runway to actually get to the other side of this thing. And they were good. Like they would have been meaningful competitors in this space to us, right? Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of reasons this is important. Those are kind of the main reasons. Again, this is not new. A lot of folks that do startups repeat this sort of thing. You want to have people that have a great shared set of core values that where it's low ego, high trust, they're obsessed with making the user successful, and underneath chaos, they have grit and resilience, right? If you aren't in this sort of insane situation like we were, and you have folks that are already having trouble with the ups and downs of a startup, I will tell you it would not have been possible to do what we did with folks that didn't have just incredible grit and ability to just check their ego and focus on what really mattered, right? So great people is what it's always about. So that's, I think from a team perspective, those are the things that really stick out to me from what allowed us to really scale with the traction that we saw and we're seeing. To handle, and this probably applies to not just like this crazy extreme situation that we are in growing the company, but in general, at startups, there's going to be times when just everything's on fire, right? And a lot of you probably relate to this, where it's like sometimes it's good things are on fire. It's just tons of customers. Sometimes it's bad things that are on fire, right? And there's just lots of them. And the question is, how do you prioritize? And the best analogy that I have leaned into, like as an operator, is like imagine that you're a fire truck squad. You have one truck, and you're in a town that's completely on fire. Where do you start? And the answer is you have to make hard decisions and choose where the high impact areas are from infrastructure, and the key people that need to be saved, right? And it's tough because all these things, it's hard to gauge sometimes what's actually going to be the most important thing, but that's the job, right, of firefighting. And so that's and a lot of and what you're saying is there are some fires that are just going to have to burn, and that's okay, right? But if we focus on saving the right things, focus on the right things, that'll make up for all the other things that we have to let go, because we simply can't focus on everything as a small team. But there's actually an added benefit of that, is that you don't get lost in the million things. If you just hired a whole bunch of people, you feel like you have to do all of these things. It turns out focusing on 10% of the things often gets you the lion's share of the result that actually matters. So it forces you to actually have clearer thinking and what you're going to go put your time and focus into as a team, right? I kind of mentioned the story of, for us, we've been around for a long time, like 8 years now as a company. And over the past 8 years in the Valley, there's been a lot of things that people will say and believe, and you go to things, gatherings of people, and they'll kind of repeat these same things, then they'll change all of a sudden. So a couple of these, like just random examples, back when we started, 2017, 2018, remote work was like very looked down upon. It was like, there's no way you could do that. My co-founder and I, we just, the best candidates we saw were coming in from all around the world. And so we had actually gotten an office in SF. We thought we were going to set up shop here. 6 months into paying this $5,000 a month office, you're like, what are we doing? Like, we haven't hired a single person here. We went fully in on remote in like 2018. Pandemic hits, then the world's like remote work. This is it. Like how, blah, blah, blah. And now we're kind of flipping back to previous. You need to have your own thinking, right? Because if you just try and follow whatever, the press or investors or whatever say, it's going to be a nightmare. You're going to be distracted by a whole bunch of decisions that fundamentally are not actually coming from your assessment of reality. Another great one is to the topic of tiny teams. If you were raising money if you were a company in 2021, you had investors, they were screaming at you, ours were, you should raise more money. You should hire a whole bunch more people. That's how this is successful. And then if you waited 12 months in 2022, they would come back and they'd say, you need to lay off a whole bunch of people. You need to stop spending money. And for us, we were like, we never were spending money. We never did increase the headcount, right? So you want to have these sort of bets that you make. And I don't want to say you don't want to be contrarian for contrarian's sake. Some of this stuff that is repeated actually tends to be durable advice. But I would just encourage you to just think for yourself and don't just adopt a lot of the hive mind stuff, because it seems like the best companies tend to have independent decision making that really allows them to succeed. So, of course, leading from the front is very important. Again, this is not a new thing, but what I'll say, in the first week of Bolt being online, it was pretty touch and go, because again, the product was very brittle. And it became clear to me, like, if myself and the team don't get out and make ourselves visible to the community and engage with them, people are going to churn and they're going to go away, and they're going to lose belief pretty quickly, because we have so much work to do. And so we started running a weekly office hours session where we let all users tune in on YouTube and X or whatever, and we just showed them we were building. We're like, hey, we hear you. Here's the things we're working on. Here's when we think they're going to land. People would ask questions, et cetera. And so, again, how do you smooth that sort of, growth curve? You go and do things that don't scale, because user love is hard to quantify on specifically, but oh my God, it works. And that's how you can really scale, love for a product like this. Last thing I'll mention, as far as like tools that we used, support is something that is now, there's a lot of AI tools that are coming out, right, that help you scale, all aspects of your business. Support has been a huge one for us. The first 2 months that we were online, I mentioned earlier, my chief of staff and I were the primary support people, spending a lot of our time doing emails. We ended up picking up a tool called ParaHelp. I don't know if anyone's heard of those guys, but they are the AI assistant called Sam from those guys is the top-rated support assistant for us, and takes out 90% of our tickets automatically. Right? A year ago, 2 years ago, we would have had to hire 50 people to go and scale to that, right? The leverage that you can have by integrating AI, and there's even custom things we're doing in our products, training our own, little models to help people be successful within the product experience that would have required human support before. There's a lot of things you can do by not just making an AI product, but also building around the entire customer success journey to be powered by that. ParaHelp, yeah, ParaHelp. So I think we're one of their customers. I think Cursor's using them. A couple of just brilliant, young guys. I think out of Europe or something, running that company. And I mentioned this before with kind of leading from the front, but community. This is something that AI cannot replace. Going and actually talking to users, creating a space for users to try out your product and learn from each other is so key. And this has always kind of been the case, right? But especially now, if you're building an AI product, it's really important that folks can learn from each other and learn in a place where they can get help from pros, right, and from the community themselves, because this is another way you can really scale the customer experience without having to add headcount within your company itself, right? And so one of the kind of cool ways that we're doing this, I don't know if anyone's seen, we are throwing the world's largest hackathon right now, actually, for this entire month. If you go to hackathon.dev, you can check it out. We have passed the Guinness World Record, by the way. This is already, so let's go. We've got 80-something thousand people that are participating. But basically, we've got this amazing event going on. We have dozens of people coming to help provide support, and as folks are building out their projects, trying out the product, and this has been just the craziest ROI we've ever seen from a marketing initiative we've ever done, both due to the scale, but also the thoughtfulness and like augmenting it with both the AI support and the community support, et cetera. This sort of stuff really works, right? So to kind of wrap up here, these are the main takeaways if you wanted to like take a photo of the TLDR or whatever. These are kind of the main things that stuck out to me from the past couple of months of our experience that really made a difference. And again, like I said, it was very touch and go, right? Especially the first 2 months, just how unexpected and unprepared we were, for what happened. Without these things, like this would not have worked, and it wouldn't be working now, right? And to boil that down, it's like, you don't want to hire an army, you want a small number of Spartans, right? That's kind of the mentality that we look for when we hire people onto the team. So, all right, with that, let's go. So this is where you can find me. I have to go to SFO immediately after this, but if anyone wants to chat about stuff or ever has questions, that's where I am on X, and then that's my email address there. I think we have 1 minute for questions, actually, if anyone has a burning one. There's a microphone up here if you want to come on up, but yeah.
Hey, how did you decide what to build? Did you have a framework for talking to users, or did you just ideate and ship product experiments and see what stuck, or what was the process there?
Yeah, you're talking about kind of how we decided to build Bolt, and even after. Yeah. We tried out probably 5 different things last year, and all of them. I mean, I think it's all the things I've ever built that really seem to stick with users and resonate always started with something that I myself thought was cool. Which sounds very obvious, but there's also most of the things I've built in my career have been things that sounded good, and it's hey, this should maybe increase our ARR, but it intrinsically wasn't something that I was so stoked about that I couldn't sleep at night. Bolt was one of those things, and then we certainly put it in front of users. People seemed excited, and I'll tell you this. What the user feedback we got from the early Bolt sessions before we launched versus some launching StackBlitz was the exact same, and the outcomes couldn't have been more different, right? So again, it's all about just taking shots on goal, because you just don't know until you actually get it out into the world. You can certainly get the early feedback, but it's all about just getting it launched, getting it out there, and iterating as fast as you can. So, am I cut? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't take any more. Thank you for having me. Hopefully this is helpful.